Heartwarming revelation, Millionaire uncovers incredible truth about the sick girl he ignored. Tom Harper stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his already perfect tie as the realization washed over him. His reflection held a man who was successful, yes, but also hollow. The expensive suit he wore felt like armor, shielding him from the connections he once cherished. Instead, they were replaced with the cold steel of his investment firm, a towering monument of his relentless ambition. Yet, the emptiness gripped him like a tight fist. His teenage daughter barely acknowledged his existence, and his wife had transformed into more of a roommate than a partner. Meanwhile, life in the town of Maplewood moved forward, with families wrestling against waves of hardship in silent resilience. Just a few blocks away lived Lizzie, an 8-year-old girl trapped in a body ravaged by illness. Her laughter lit up the darkest rooms, but it was drowned out by the crushing reality of her medical costs treatments that made her family's smiles feel bittersweet and clouded by financial strain. As Maplewood organized a grand community fundraiser to ease Lizzie's burdens, Tom faced a critical meeting that could elevate his company's future. He brushed off the event, thinking it was a pleasant distraction. He made a small donation, just enough to pat himself on the back. But fate, dressed in the guise of wayward GPS directions, had other plans. Before he knew it, Tom ambled into the fundraiser under the banner of hope and solidarity. The air buzzed with warmth and togetherness as families rallied, their lives intertwining for the sake of one little girl. When Tom saw Lizzie, curled up on a folding chair, radiant despite her frail form, something inside him shifted. Her bright eyes sparkled, capturing so much joy in the face of her overwhelming battles. The community surrounded her like a fortress, their spirits unyielding, and Tom's heart tightened. Here were people living real moments, not lost in numbers or spreadsheets, but in stories of love and sacrifice. He couldn't look away. Who was he in this mix? Just a man who had traded human connection for currency. Before he could let the enormity of his own failures sink in, chaos erupted. Lizzie collapsed. Gasps and frantic cries filled the room as adrenaline surged. He watched as a mother rushed forth, panic and desperation etched across her face. In that moment, Tom felt paralyzed. The world stood still, time suspended as precious moments unraveled before him. Could he truly step in, trade his self-importance for responsibility? Would he risk his comfortable empire for a chance to touch something real? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Tom stood there, the realization flooding over him, each tick of his watch echoed the weight of his choices. Life would not wait for him to get it right anymore. Here, where joy and fear danced so dangerously together, he was faced with a dawning truth: it was never too late to change. Yet would he have the courage to do it? As chaos surrounded him, he felt both the danger and hope swell like a rising tide in his chest. The answer to that question could either save a life or doom him to a disconnection he'd grown far too accustomed to. Tom's feet felt glued to the floor as the scene unfolded before him. Lizzie lay motionless, the laughter he had heard just moments ago fading into memory. The mother's frantic voice broke through the panic in the room as she cradled her daughter, begging her to wake up. Something deep inside Tom stirred a spark he thought had long been extinguished. In moments like these, the world stripped away the pretense of success and wealth. Here, life was not concerned with bank accounts or corporate ladders. It was raw and real, pulsing with love and the desperate longing for hope. As Tom's heart thundered in his chest, he felt a surge of guilt for every moment he had chosen to prioritize money over connection. His priorities felt painfully misplaced, like a compass gone awry. Somebody call an ambulance. Someone shouted, but the atmosphere was chaotic, voices mixing in a desperate plea for action. Tom's hands trembled, and he looked around, searching for guidance amid the turmoil. People crowded around Lizzie, their faces masks of worry, but no one seemed to notice the man who had become a spectator in his own life. Finally, Tom broke free from his paralysis. He forced his way through the throng, his heart racing, every step heavy with purpose. He reached the father of Lizzie, a man with worry etched into his brow. "What can I do?" Tom asked, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside him. "Just help. Keep her awake." The father replied, his eyes pleading. Tom knelt beside Lizzie, desperation pulling at his heartstrings. He met her gaze, her wide eyes flickering between awareness and despair. "Stay with me, Lizzie. We're going to get you help, okay?" For the first time, he felt the power of connection. In this singular moment, it didn't matter who he was or what he owned. It was about presence being there for someone who needed him. As he took Lizzie's small hand in his, a jolt surged through him, as if he were waking up from a long slumber. "Hang on, Lizzie. You're the bravest girl I know," he whispered, tears stinging his eyes. He felt the warmth of her little fingers and it grounded him. Maybe this was his chance not just to help Lizzie, but to rediscover himself. He could be more than a businessman, he could be part of something meaningful. The sirens echoed in the distance, a promise of help arriving. Relief washed over Tom, but it was mixed with fear. What if it was too late? He squeezed Lizzie's hand tighter. Would he have the courage to keep fighting for her? To fight for the connection he had once cast aside? As the paramedics burst into the room, moving swiftly, Tom stepped back to give them space. He watched with bated breath as they took over, assessing Lizzie's condition. The rush of professionals fortified his resolve. He couldn't just stand by anymore, he needed to do something. Across the room, he caught the eye of Lizzie's mother, her face streaked with tears but filled with a glimmer of gratitude. The electricity of determination surged within him again. "Can I help you with anything?" he asked her, knowing full well what he was setting into motion. "Yes. Just, please. Keep praying." She replied, her eyes filled with both fear and hope. And in that moment, Tom realized that he didn't just have to fight for Lizzie. He could be a force of change, a force for good in Maplewood. Whatever had led him to this place, he could take a different path. Tom made a silent promise to Lizzie and to himself. He would not waste this opportunity. He would become part of this community, truly and fully, even if it meant starting from the ground up. Unbeknownst to him, the real battle lay ahead not just for Lizzie's life but for his own soul. Could he become the man he was meant to be? As Lizzie was whisked away on a stretcher, Tom knew that the journey had only just begun. What awaited him in this newfound path could change everything. Would he be able to step up and transform not only his life but the lives of those around him? Tom stood there, his heart still racing, as the ambulance doors slammed shut behind Lizzie. The chaos of the room faded into a distant hum, leaving him engulfed in a heavy silence. He felt like an outsider peering in on something so fragile and beautiful, life, at its core, battling against the odds. "Did you see what happened?" A voice called out, startling him from his thoughts. It was a neighbor he barely recognized, her brow furrowed with concern. "I heard a scream, then. I don't know. I just got here," Tom answered, his voice softer than he intended. The neighbor nodded, eyes darting towards the exit. "I hope she'll be okay." Tom forced a reassuring smile. "She will be." But deep down, uncertainty gnawed at him. How could he promise something he couldn't guarantee? He looked around the room, now filled with anxious faces, each person trapped in their own thoughts and fears. A child was crying in the corner, the sound piercing through the tension. A mother held the child close, her own eyes damp with tears. Suddenly, Tom didn't just see strangers, he saw a community, a heartbeat of shared experience and emotion. "How about we all gather for a moment?" he suggested, surprising even himself. Let us hold hands and send her good vibes. So she can feel us." Some looked skeptical, others nodded, desperate for anything that might help. They formed a circle, hands clasped tightly. Tom could feel the warmth radiating from each person, filling the hollow space inside him. They closed their eyes. Tom took a deep breath. As he inhaled, he envisioned Lizzie's bright smile, her laughter ringing in his ears once more. "We're with you, Lizzie," he whispered, finding strength in the collective voice around him. "Keep fighting." When they opened their eyes, a little color had returned to everyone's faces. There were no promises of success, but hope shimmered, a fragile yet powerful thing. As the group slowly dispersed, one of the older neighbors approached Tom. "You did a good thing back there," he said. "You reminded us to care, to be there for one another. It's easy to forget amidst our own busy lives." Tom felt a warmth wash over him, a budding sense of purpose igniting within. In that brief moment, he realized he didn't have to wait for a monumental change to start making an impact. Even small acts of kindness could ripple outward, creating a wave of compassion and connection. "What if I organized something for all of us?" Tom asked, his voice steady and firm. "A fundraiser, maybe? We could help Lizzie's family with anything they need, medical bills or just support. You think people would come together for that?" The neighbor questioned, skepticism lacing her tone. "Why not? We're all here. We care about her," Tom insisted, conviction filling his words. "Let us show our community that we can unite, that we won't stand for isolation in tough times." He sensed the shift then, a spark igniting in the room. Others were listening now, the spark of hope turning into a flame of determination. They exchanged glances, slowly nodding in agreement. Before he realized it, they were making plans, tossing around ideas on what they could do. Tom felt a swell of pride in leading this unexpected charge, and a newfound conviction bubbled to the surface. But as his heart swelled with purpose, shadows of doubt crept back in. Would this be enough? Could he really make a difference in their lives? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over Maplewood, Tom glanced at the empty spot where Lizzie had been moments before. He made a silent vow that he would honor her fight, not just for her but for everyone. "Hold on, Lizzie," he whispered again, with fervor. The real test was still ahead, not just for her but for him as well. Could he rally those around him? Could he become the leader they needed? As he stood watching the twinkling lights of hope flicker in each heart, Tom knew one thing: it was just the beginning. What challenges would he face as he stepped into this new role, striving to unite a community that had once felt so distant? Would he have what it took to keep his promise? Tom couldn't sleep that night. The events of the evening replayed in his mind like a broken record. Lizzie's laughter felt like a distant dream, now entwined with the dread of her uncertain fate. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thoughts racing, heart heavy. Was this truly the path he was meant to take? Morning crept in reluctantly, sunlight filtering through the curtains as if trying to wake him from a stupor. He felt more exhausted than the night before. Yet, he couldn't ignore the spark ignited within him. Today, he had a mission. He grabbed his phone and scrolled through contacts, crafting a message to those who had gathered last night. Looking to organize a community fundraiser. "We need to meet. Let us create something meaningful together." As the day unfolded, responses trickled in. Some were enthusiastic, while others were hesitant. Tom decided to meet them at the park later. Surrounded by nature, he hoped the fresh air would lift spirits. Once he arrived, the park bustled with families enjoying the sun. He saw familiar faces and some newcomers, all drawn by a common purpose. Heartbeats mingled, suspicions faded, and hope brewed like coffee on a chilly morning. "Hey everyone, thank you for coming," Tom started. His voice steadied as he spoke. "I know we're all worried about Lizzie." His heart raced at saying her name aloud, but he pressed on. "I believe we can do something special for her family. Something that shows our love and support." He could see flickers of interest on their faces, a few whispering to each other. Tom continued, let us host a bake sale. Everyone loves sweets. We can set it for next weekend. Not just to raise money but to come together as a community. A young woman, someone from the circle last night, raised her hand. What if we also make it a block party? We could invite local musicians, have games for kids, make it a celebration of life. For Lizzie. That's brilliant. Tom exclaimed, invigorated. As ideas flowed, he felt the weight of responsibility lessening. He wasn't just leading, he was part of something bigger. The group brainstormed for hours, laughter mixing with serious planning. They set up tasks to delegate, swapping phone numbers and cheering each other on. With each passing moment, the air thickened with a sense of unity. Moments of silence transformed into bursts of ideas, interspersed with laughter and smiles. Before they wrapped up, Tom glanced around. He caught a glimpse of a neighbor wiping a tear, but there was a sparkle in her eyes. Her emotion invigorated Tom more than any compliment could. He spoke again, let us make this not just about Lizzie, but about coming together. We need each other now. We need to lessen the isolation we all sometimes feel. A round of applause erupted, carrying an energy that seemed to lift the very leaves of the trees around them. As they dispersed, Tom realized the task ahead was monumental, but he felt excitement whirling in his chest. Hope was no longer a mere flicker, it was a blaze. Could he manage to keep that flame alive? That night, his phone buzzed with another message. It was from Lizzie's mother, expressing gratitude for the community support. Tom's heart both sank and soared. What if Lizzie never gets to see our efforts? He thought, but then quickly squashed that thought. What if she does? The path ahead contained uncertainties and challenges, but also the promise of change. He had taken the first step. Now he just needed to keep moving forward, step by step. But just as he felt a swell of determination, another message popped up, the news he never expected, a twist that could alter everything. What had he inadvertently stumbled into? Tom gasped as he read the message. It didn't take long for the words to sink in. A wealthy benefactor from the town, someone whose name was often whispered in the same breath as charity and community contributions, had just sent him an unexpected offer, a donation, large enough to make a significant impact, but with a catch. This person wanted to meet him. His mind raced. Who was this benefactor? Why pick him out of everyone in town? As excitement bubbled within him, anxiety quickly took its place. Meeting someone of this stature felt daunting. What if he fumbled the conversation? What if they expected something from him? Tom sat on the edge of his bed, his heart pounding, his palms clammy. The next day, he paced nervously through his apartment, glancing at his reflection in the window. No, he couldn't let fear offset the hope he felt the day before. He grabbed his worn-out notebook, scribbling down possible questions. Why Lizzie? What motivated you? An hour later, he found himself at the cafe downtown, a quirky little place filled with small tables and mismatched chairs. It exuded warmth, the aroma of coffee and baked pastries hanging in the air. Tom stole glances as each new customer entered, waiting for the familiar face he half expected to feel unworthy of. Then she walked in, a woman with bright eyes and a warm smile. Her confidence filled the space, she radiated kindness. He stood up instinctively, offering his hand. Thank you for meeting with me. Of course, she replied, her handshake firm yet gentle. I've heard so much about you from Lizzie's family and the community. As they took their seats, Tom barely noticed the bustling cafe around them. All he could focus on was her presence. So, you're interested in helping with the fundraiser? He asked, excitement bubbling within him. Yes, I'm keen to see how I can support, she replied warmly. But I want to know more about Lizzie. Why do you care so much? Tom felt his heart race. Lizzie, is she as special to all of us? She brings joy, laughter. We want to show her family that they're not alone. He stumbled through his words with the passion burning in his chest. This fundraiser isn't just about money, it's a way to strengthen our community. The woman nodded, her expression shifting as she listened intently. I understand. Actually, that's why I'm here. I want to give back because well, I didn't always. I ignored my calling to support those in need until I saw someone close to me suffer. And I wish I could have done something then. Tom saw a hint of vulnerability in her eyes. A shared understanding started to bridge the gap between them. You have the opportunity to change that now, he said softly. We all do. That's what this means. Together, we can create impact. For the next hour, they discussed ideas, fundraisers, initiatives, outreach programs. Tom felt the excitement grow as visions for the future filled the air. The cafe that had seemed so ordinary transformed into a brainstorming hub, buzzing with possibilities. As they wrapped up, the woman leaned closer. Tom, there's something else I need to show you. I think it could help Lizzie in more ways than we realize. She pulled out her phone and revealed a message that made his eyes widen. A groundbreaking opportunity that could change everything. What is this? He breathed, feeling the weight of her revelation settle over him. As the gravity of her words sunk in, Tom felt a swell of hope mixed with anxiety. This was beyond anything he had dreamed of. As they walked out of the cafe, the sky above transformed into a kaleidoscope of colors, reflecting the promise of everything that lay ahead. But with the thrill of new possibilities came the question that lingered in the back of his mind: who would benefit more from this revelation, the community, or himself? The answer loomed like an unturned page, hidden just out of reach. As they stepped outside into the crisp air, Tom felt a mix of anticipation and trepidation. The woman Elena, she had introduced herself as, was staring intently at her phone, her brows furrowing slightly. I think this could be the key, she murmured, more to herself than to him. The radiant hues of the sunset mirrored the whirlwind of thoughts swirling in his head. What did you mean by help Lizzie in more ways than we realize? Tom asked, pushing down the flutter of anxiety. He could feel himself on the brink of something big, but the details remained shrouded in mystery. She smiled, a glimmer of excitement dancing in her eyes. It's about connection. Last year, I supported a project similar to what you're proposing. It was a healthcare initiative aimed at children with rare illnesses. Our team found amazing resources and connections throughout the state. Tom's heart raced. You mean there are more ways to support Lizzie's family? Resources beyond just fundraising? Yes. Elena replied, her voice vibrant. There are specialists, opportunities for research funding, and perhaps a mentorship that can guide them through this entire ordeal. It's a network that can save both lives and hope. For a moment, Tom simply stood there, absorbing her words. The weight of responsibility pressed on him. He wanted to be a beacon for Lizzie and her family, but the magnitude of what was needed daunted him. Could they truly find more than mere financial support? As they walked down the now busy street, Tom noticed families gathering at the park nearby, children playing, laughter blending with the sounds of evening. He couldn't help but think of Lizzie, her smile, her immense spirit, and the way her laughter could light up the darkest room. This wasn't just about donations, it was about life-changing moments. How do we tap into this network? He asked, urgency creeping into his tone. Elena began to explain, her enthusiasm contagious. She detailed how they could leverage social media, reach out to other charitable organizations, and even engage local businesses who might have the means to help. Each idea sparkled with potential, igniting a fire within Tom that threatened to burst into flames. Together, he said, we can create a ripple effect. Yes. That's it. Elena's smile lit up the fading light around them. Imagine if we can show Lizzie's family they're not alone in this fight. That they have a whole community behind them. Tom nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just about Lizzie anymore, it was about a collective movement. But still, a nagging thought pulled at him. As they spoke, gleeful eyes drifted in and out of focus around them. What if they failed? What if their efforts weren't enough? Can we really make a difference? He wondered aloud, his voice almost a whisper against the background noise of the bustling sidewalk. Elena turned to him, her gaze steady and sure. Yes, Tom. If we believe in this, anything is possible. But we have to act fast. There's a clock ticking, and I can feel its weight. They made plans to meet again the next day, but as Tom walked home, the uplifting excitement began to mix with doubt. How would he convince the community to rally behind them? Had he bitten off more than he could chew? As he closed his door behind him and leaned against it, he felt the weight of expectation settle on his shoulders. What would happen if they succeeded? What about if they failed? Would he still be able to look Lizzie's family in the eyes after all of this? Those questions lingered, clinging to him like shadows, as he sat in the growing darkness of his apartment. Tomorrow held promises, but it also dwelled on uncertainty. And as his thoughts spiraled, an unexpected notification popped up on his phone, a text from Lizzie's mother that sent a chill down his spine. I need to talk to you about something important. What could that possibly be? The sudden buzz of Tom's phone pierced through his swirling thoughts. The words on the screen felt like a punch to the gut. I need to talk to you about something important. He stared at the text, his heart racing again, this time with a mix of confusion and dread. What could Lizzie's mom want to discuss? Would it be good news or bad? Was it about Lizzie's condition, or perhaps he dreaded to think that they were losing hope? Swallowing hard, he paced his small living room, the shadows growing longer as night settled in. Each step felt heavier, burdened with questions he couldn't answer. Lizzie had been so strong, so full of life despite her illness. He had agreed to take on this project, to rally support for her family, but had he truly stepped up? Was he ready for whatever daunting news awaited him? The clock on the wall ticked loudly, echoing the urgency growing within him. He glanced back at his phone, the blinking notification felt like an urgent pulse demanding his attention. What did Lizzie's mother need from him? He felt a flutter of guilt in his stomach. Was he really doing enough? Was tomorrow's meeting with Elena just a distraction from the reality of Lizzie's situation? After several minutes of anxiety-fueled pacing, he picked up his phone and typed a quick response. Is everything okay? When can we talk? The minutes crept by, each one feeling like an eternity. He took a deep breath, trying to quell the rising tide of concern. He had promised himself he would fight for Lizzie, that they would make a difference together. Now, that promise felt tenuous, like a thread ready to snap. Finally, his phone buzzed again with Lizzie's mom's response. Can you come over tonight? It's important. That simple request sent his heart racing once more. He grabbed his jacket and keys and dashed out the door, the cool night air refreshing yet filled with apprehension. The streets felt alive with the laughter of kids still playing and the soft chatter of families. But all he could focus on was the image of Lizzie and her mother. He made his way through the familiar neighborhood, the rhythmic patterns of his footsteps echoing his racing pulse. When he arrived at Lizzie's house, the warm glow of lights spilled out from the windows, casting long shadows on the front lawn. Before he knocked, he caught sight of a family photo hung near the entrance, a smiling Lizzie caught mid-laugh, surrounded by her parents. It struck him then this family wasn't just a project. They were real people fighting a real battle, and he was stepping into their world, weighed down by the enormity of the task ahead. He rapped his knuckles gently against the door. It swung open almost immediately, revealing Lizzie's mother. Her eyes, usually bright and welcoming, appeared heavy with worry. "Thank you for coming, Tom," she said softly, stepping aside to let him in. As he crossed the threshold, he sensed a change in the air. A tension hung between them, one that whispered of hard conversations to come. Tom felt the weight of her gaze, the urgency of her presence. "It's about Lizzie," she said quietly, closing the door behind him. He nodded, his heart pounding in anticipation. "What is going on?" Lizzie's mother took a deep breath, the kind that seemed to signal both fear and resolve. "I think it's time we explore some options you weren't aware of." Options? What did she mean? Tom felt hope flickering but was also sensing new fears. I've been doing some research, she continued, her voice steady but emotional. There is something I need to discuss with you that might change everything. As she spoke, Tom felt a surge of energy, a flicker of hope, but it was quickly countered by apprehension. What revelation awaited him? He leaned in, heart thundering, eager yet fearful. What if this was the key to making a difference for Lizzie? Or was it yet another hurdle they would have to face? Just then, a distant laugh echoed from the room down the hall, reminding him again of how precious and fleeting this moment was. What could her mother possibly reveal? Tom held his breath. Lizzie's mother lingered for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Tom's heart raced as he tried to interpret the flicker in her eyes, hope or despair. It's about an experimental treatment, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. I've learned about a clinical trial that could be life-changing for Lizzie. Tom's mind whirled. Experimental treatment? A clinical trial? He knew little about the complexities of medical jargon, but the idea of options felt almost foreign. What kind of trial? Where is it? He stammered, stepping closer. It's for patients with her specific type of condition. It's being held at a prestigious hospital, just a few hours away from here, she explained, her eyes brightening with every word as if they shared a precious secret. I've read testimonials, seen video interviews of families who participated. Tom's excitement battled with his skepticism. But isn't there a risk? What if it doesn't work? He bit his lip, unable to contain his doubt. The sheer prospect of hope was exhilarating but terrifying, too. Lizzie's mother nodded solemnly. There's always a risk, but isn't there a risk in not trying? Lizzie has been so strong. I know we can't just sit back and watch. We have to fight for her. As she spoke, Tom felt the weightlessness of her determination bolstering his own wavering resolve. This wasn't just a discussion, it was a turning point. What do we need to do? He asked, chest tightening with responsibility. Lizzie's mother pulled out a stack of papers, her hands trembling slightly. I've printed out the requirements for the trial. They need advocates, support. We cannot do this alone. That's where you come in, Tom. He glanced at the papers, anxiety fluttering in his stomach. You want me to help raise awareness? Fundraise? She nodded, her face earnest. Yes. This could change everything for her. For us. We need to reach out to the community and spread the word. Because if we can get enough support, Lizzie may have a chance. Tom's heart surged with adrenaline. The thought of a real possibility, of standing up for Lizzie, ignited a spark within him. But doubt still lingered, wrapping around his heart like a cool grip. What if we fail? What if we don't get enough support? A soft laugh escaped her lips. Tom, that's why we need to act now. Together. I can't imagine going through this journey without someone like you by my side. You've inspired so many these past few weeks. You're already making a difference. Her unexpected praise filled him with warmth. A sense of purpose began to bloom inside him. Could they really do this? Could they shift the tides of fate for Lizzie? Just then, a small voice broke through their conversation. Lizzie stood at the end of the hall, head tilted, eyes wide, curiosity masked with a hint of uncertainty. What are you guys talking about? Tom felt a pang in his chest. There was Lizzie, a beacon of strength, peering into the unknown. He exchanged glances with her mother. They both understood the weight of the moment. Her mother knelt down, opening her arms wide with a smile. Just talking about some exciting plans for you, sweetie. Lizzie's face lit up, but Tom's heart felt heavy. The joy in her expression clashed painfully with the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Can I know? Tom took a step toward her, feeling the pull of her innocence, her hope. You will, Lizzie. We'll tell you everything. But first, let us make sure we have a plan. With every beat of his heart, determination grew. He wanted to protect Lizzie's spirit, her laughter. Together, they could push against the odds. As they gathered around the table, Tom realized they were on the brink of something monumental. He glanced at the papers, then at Lizzie. Would they be able to give her the chance for a future, or would they stumble under the weight of fear? The buzzing thoughts in Tom's mind grew louder, intertwined with Lizzie's laughter from earlier. What if they could move mountains? Ready for this? He murmured to Lizzie, as he felt her energy ignite everything around them. I was born ready. She replied with a beaming smile, capturing the essence of hope itself. But deep down, the question echoed louder, how far would they go to make this happen? An unmistakable challenge lingered in the air. Were they truly prepared for what lay ahead? Tom took a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling in around him. He looked down at the papers spread across the table, their stark white pages suddenly feeling heavy with expectation. Each requirement listed wasn't just words, they represented the hopes and dreams of a little girl who had been through so much. Okay, let us get to work, he said, his voice more assured than he felt. What do we need to do first? As Lizzie's mother began to outline their plan, Tom found himself hanging on to every word. They discussed ways to reach out to the community, create flyers, social media campaigns, and even a fundraising event. It was overwhelming, but excitement began to weave through the threads of anxiety. Lizzie, who had been quiet since her initial excitement, suddenly piped up, "Can I help?" Her eyes sparkled with determination that made Tom's heart ache with both joy and sorrow. She had always been a fighter. Absolutely. Tom exclaimed, a smile breaking across his face. What do you want to do? I can make posters. And I want to talk to my friends at school, she said, her voice bubbling over with enthusiasm. They can help too. Lizzie's mother beamed, pride radiating from her like sunlight. That's a great idea, sweetheart. The more people who know, the stronger we'll be. Tom felt a rush of gratitude for Lizzie. Her willingness to take action, her bravery in the face of uncertainty, inspired him. If she could do this, then so could he. They spent the next hour brainstorming ideas, their voices rising in excitement. Lizzie's laughter filled the room with warmth, pushing away some of the darker shadows that crept in with the fear of the upcoming trial. They settled on a date for a community gathering, a day when they could share Lizzie's story and galvanize the support they desperately needed. Let us call it Lizzie's Hope Day, her mother suggested, tapping her pen excitedly against the table. Tom nodded enthusiastically. We can have activities, games. A bake sale. Everyone loves cookies. Lizzie declared, bouncing in her chair. As they finalized plans, an avalanche of ideas surged through Tom's mind. He wanted to make this event unforgettable. If they were going to fight for Lizzie's future, it needed to be big. Every heart they could reach might just tip the balance in their favor. Yet, as the day wore on and the initial excitement ebbed slightly, doubt began to creep back in. Would people really care enough to get involved? Would they believe in a clinical trial that felt so uncertain? Tom glanced at Lizzie, who was now doodling on a piece of paper, lost in her own world of possibility. Her carefree laughter echoed in his ears, but a shadow loomed behind those smiles. He remembered the statistics, the risks and the harsh reality that not every story ends with success. What if they didn't get enough support? Would Lizzie be let down? Tom! Lizzie called, pulling him from his thoughts. Come look at this. He stepped over to her, peering at her drawing. It was a rainbow, brilliant and bold, stretching across a bright blue sky. It radiated joy despite the uncertainty surrounding it. He felt his heart swell. This is beautiful, Lizzie, he said, kneeling beside her. What does it mean? It means that even when things get dark, there's always a light. We just have to look for it. Her conviction shocked him. It was a lesson wrapped in innocence. At that moment, Tom realized something fundamental. they were all part of something bigger now, a collective battle against fate. And while fear crawled beneath the surface, hope began to unfurl its wings. "Lizzie, you're right," he said, his voice steadier now. "We will find that light, and we will fight for it." Just as they were wrapping up their plans, his phone buzzed, cutting through the air. It was a notification from a local community group. There was interest in their initiative, people wanted to help. "Look at this!" Tom shouted, his heart racing again as he showed them the screen. Lizzie's eyes widened with joy. "See? It's working already." The room felt electric. Tom realized that a flicker of hope had transformed into an undeniable flame. But with the urgency of their need came lingering questions. What other surprises awaited them? As they sat together, excitement swirling in the air, Tom knew deep down that the journey ahead wouldn't be easy. Just as shadows threatened to eclipse their hopes, new challenges were sure to arise. How would they handle the surge of responsibility that came with their growing mission? Would they rise to the occasion, or would doubts threaten to dim their light? The road ahead was unwritten, and as Tom looked at Lizzie, he felt the weight of the future hanging in the balance. As the day of Lizzie's Hope Day approached, Tom felt a mix of excitement and anxiety dance in his chest. The park was already buzzing with preparations. A kaleidoscope of colors emerged from streamers and banners that flapped like wings against a bright summer sky. The laughter of children mixed with voices of neighbors inviting joy back into their lives, each smile a defiance against the struggles they faced. But beneath his excited demeanor, doubt still gnawed at Tom. What if they didn't get enough support? What if Lizzie didn't have a chance? As he set up the sound system, he glanced over at Lizzie, who was busy assembling her colorful posters. Her pure determination radiated hope, igniting inspiration in everyone around her. "Tom!" Lizzie called out, her eyes sparkling. "Come see what I drew." He rushed over, kneeling beside her where she had transformed a piece of poster board into a brilliant collage of rainbows, hearts, and the words "Hope is powerful." "This is amazing, Lizzie!" he exclaimed, emotion swelling in his chest. "This is exactly what we need." Her pride shone through as she looked up at him. "Do you think others will believe it?" she asked. Tom felt a lump in his throat. "If they see how brave you are, they will." And with that simple exchange, Tom felt a resolution solidify within him. They had to be brave together. As the event commenced, families began to gather, filling the park with energy and laughter that wrapped around them like a warm embrace. Tom took a moment to breathe it all in, the community coming alive, in support of one little girl. "Look!" Lizzie said, pointing excitedly. "Here come my friends." Tom watched as her schoolmates raced towards them, wide-eyed with enthusiasm. Children buzzing with excitement could bring forth wonders he had almost forgotten existed. They believed, without hesitation. The day flew by in a whirlwind of games, music, and baked goods. Tom moved from booth to booth, feeling a palpable sense of belonging take root deep in him. The more he interacted with neighbors and friends, the more he saw how interconnected their lives were. But as dusk approached, anxiety crept back in. He stood at the edge of the gathering, watching people dance and laugh, but his heart raced with a quiet concern. How would they reveal the clinical trial to the community? He wished with all his being that it would be simple, that the hope they created could transcend the reality of uncertainty. As he collected himself, Lizzie bumped into him, giggling with a cupcake smeared across her face. "Tom! We're about to start the speeches." He pulled her close, smiling wide. "Are you ready?" "Born ready," she exclaimed, her voice full of determination and innocence. Tom felt buoyed by her relentless spirit and took his place on the small makeshift stage. The hum of the crowd calmed him, a wave of support washing away his fear. He cleared his throat and looked out at the smiling faces, a sea of hope reflecting back at him. "Thank you all for coming out today," he began, the warmth of the moment wrapping around him. "We are here for Lizzie, yes, but we are also here for each other. For every story of struggle, every moment of pain, and for every laugh that ignites joy amidst the hardships. Today, we remind ourselves that together, we can create change and we can fight for a beautiful future. Applause broke through his words, and he felt a surge of strength. Lizzie inspires us all to hope, and I want to share with you all something incredible. There is a clinical trial specifically for children like her, a chance we cannot afford to let pass. But we need your help. We need this community to stand with us and support Lizzie, giving her a fighting chance at this life-saving opportunity. Cheers erupted, and hope exploded in his chest. But as he continued, uncertainty crept back. Would they engage? Would they support? As Tom introduced Lizzie to the crowd, showing her resilience, warmth, and vibrant spirit, he saw the spark ignite in everyone else's eyes. Lizzie stepped forward, taking the microphone, her small hands gripping it. Like a warrior preparing for battle. "Thank you for being here," she said, her voice unwavering. "I want to get better, and this can help. We just need to believe." The crowd fell silent, captivated by her strength. Tom's heart swelled with pride as people gasped in awe. Suddenly, a whispered conversation buzzed through the crowd, filled with murmurs of shared understanding and hope. Tom watched as hands reached out to support one another. Strangers became allies in this fight for Lizzie's future. The event morphed into an outpouring of love, a ripple effect of connection buzzing through the air. Donations piled up like building blocks, and by the end of the day, what started as a small idea transformed into an avalanche of support. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over their gathering, Tom felt overwhelmed with gratitude. Hope wasn't just a word, it was alive, thriving in a community that chose connection over isolation. He turned to Lizzie, whose smile lit up the fading light. "We did it!" she shouted, jumping up and down. Tom felt tears of joy prick at his eyes. "No, Lizzie, we all did it." In that moment, everything shifted. The doubts that had once clouded his heart washed away. Together, they were creating a legacy of love, reclaiming joy and human connection amidst chaos. "Step by step, Lizzie," he whispered, "we'll keep fighting for you." Little did they know, this day would spark a movement throughout Maplewood. The significance extended far beyond Lizzie, reaching corners that he hadn't even imagined. As the crowd cheered and uplifted each other, Tom realized he had transformed not only for Lizzie but for himself. And tonight, they would carry the hope and love ignited in that park back into their homes. With hearts intertwined, they were ready to embrace whatever came next, life's most unpredictable journey and all the possibilities it had to offer. Now was the moment for change, and together they would cherish every heartbeat, every breath, and every laugh along the way. If you felt inspired by this story, this is your chance to make a difference. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss our next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and make sure more true stories reach hearts like yours. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Thank you for being part of this journey.